welcome back to my channel. So today I have another speed build for you, and this one's a little bit different. This is actually part 2 of this family farm build. So part 1 is already up on my channel. If you would like to check it out, there's a playlist down below of all of my other speed builds and you can find it there. So I've actually already done the exterior of this home. So I've already built the home and I've already done all the landscaping and all the farmy stuff outside. So now we are inside of the build and just trying to create a lovely space for this family. And so here I'm just trying to figure out exactly where I want the stairs, and I kind of wanted it to be like open above the stairs, so not just like a little bit, but kind of that full length of the stairs, if that makes sense. I just feel like it's, it just gives a little more space to the house, if that makes sense. And so I decided to actually squeeze in a half bath over by the stairs for a couple reasons. So then there's a bathroom downstairs for your Sims, so they don't have to run upstairs every single time they need to use the bathroom. But also because this house is actually made for 5 Sims. I had to actually count in my head how many Sims I actually made this for. You can of course change that. There's plenty of room to add more Sims. This is already up on my gallery if you wanted to download it. My origin ID is spicensprinkles, all one word, all lowercase, and is also down in the description if you wanted to see it written out. So I wanted this to be a really warm and welcoming space for this lovely family that ends up living here, if that's how you choose to play with this build. And I was thinking that we have a set of parents. I'm thinking twin boys. I have like the children, like child age, and then one teenage girl. And basically that's just kind of what I went with. And I had started originally with trying to bring in a bunch of like red accents in with the tile. And then I actually end up shifting it a little bit. And I think I go a little more like pink, maybe mauve colored, just because the red is just so intense. And don't get me wrong, I love the outside of this house. Maybe I'm a little biased. My house is actually red, so I love it, and is what drew me to my house to begin with. When I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to go see this house. But I just decided it was just very like stark in contrast with everything else, and the feel I wanted for the house was just this like warm, cozy family vibe, and I guess I just wasn't getting it from the red, which I think was part of my problem. It took me a little while to decide on what I wanted. You probably see me going back and forth several times with different wallpapers, especially with the red, but it just didn't feel quite right. I don't know if you've ever had that experience while you're building and you're just like, something's not clicking, something doesn't feel right, but that's kind of what was going on with me. But don't worry, I get into the groove and I figure it out here in a little bit. I feel like it started to when I was trying to pick a rug for this bathroom and it just kind of wasn't fitting. But I do actually include a like children's space in the first floor, actually in front of the stairs over there. I make like a built-in for the kids to hang out with and like put all their stuff. I imagine like all their school supplies are in there and some desk space. So I'll talk a little bit more about that when I actually get there. And I also include this like study area. I just made like an arch for it. I kind of like the more open floor plan, but you could easily replace that with a door if you wanted to, especially if you have like an issue with like Sims coming over and just going straight for your computer. And then that's what they're doing the whole time, which honestly I find kind of funny, but kind of frustrating at the same time every time I have a Sim over and it's like, oh, okay, so you're just gonna go sit on the computer instead of talk to me, but like, all right. So if you want to switch that out, feel free to do so. And I wanted to include like some bookcases, but the two just felt really overwhelming. And so I added that like bench in there. And again, I'm having like a crisis of like, the color scheme, what I want to do with the curtains, all of that kind of stuff, but I come back and change it up a little bit and I like it a lot more. And then trying to find a bookcase that I felt like wasn't super like heavy and big in this space because it wasn't that large. I end up using one of the new bookcases that came with the werewolf pack, and I thought it looked so nice in here. Slightly rustic since it was on this farm, and then using that lovely picture from Cottage Living. I feel like I use that a lot, but it honestly is a good picture and I feel like it sizes up well and that like it's not like crazy huge, but it could fill the space nicely. And then I felt like it would have a little bit of clutter on the desk, since there's 3 kids and 2 parents here, there's just a lot going on. So there's a little bit of clutter, but not a ton, but it just feels a little more lived in, I think, if there's papers. And I'm not exactly sure what these Sims do. I didn't necessarily think about that in terms of profession. I mean, it would make complete sense if this was their income was their farm, and I think that's definitely doable with the amount of space that's out there. There's a lot of gardening space. There's also chickens, and then there's space for like a llama or a cow or something. You can choose, of course, when you're playing with it. And I even like put a sign outside that's actually like maybe that's their like farm brand. So who knows? Maybe one of the parents does it, maybe both of them do. But that's kind of just totally up to you what you want to do. But it does help me if I kind of think about what these Sims might do. You know, like it helps me pick the interior and imagining what their life is like. And then I knew I wanted to include like a small chimney here, or not a chimney, a fireplace. A chimney goes with a fireplace. Oh my goodness. I didn't actually put a chimney on this build. I'm not sure if you want to consider this being an electric fireplace, or honestly it's The Sims and you don't need one, so it doesn't matter. But I ended up not adding one on the outside of the build. And then finding curtains for these windows was kind of interesting, since the ones on the front of the house are a little bit different than all the other ones. They're just a little bit taller, but I like the way they looked on the outside, like a nice grand entrance. And then I think at this point is when I was starting to get the color scheme a little more. You can see kind of some of those like soft pink tones in the rug I've chosen. And I end up pulling that into kind of the rest of the house and use that as my inspiration and color palette. And I love that rug so much from Cottage Living. I do use a decent bit from Cottage Living, especially on the outside of the build, of course, because it's a farm and that's our farming pack. But just trying to figure out exactly what kind of couches I wanted, how I wanted to lay everything out. And honestly, I was having a little bit of an issue in terms of like centering it properly. Like it just felt a little off, but don't worry, I figured it out and it's all fine in the end. Like I just go back and forth a lot on things, and I totally always forget that this chair even exists in the game, but it's from Cats and Dogs, and I thought it looked so nice here and just had like the right cozy like vibe for this home. And then this is me just trying to figure out how I want it. Did I want to center it with the window? Did I want to center it with the fireplace? Like what did I want to do? I knew that I wanted the fireplace centered on that wall. The problem is that wall is just a little bit shorter than like the space between the corner of the house and the door. So I think that's kind of what threw it off, and it was only off by like 1 square. So I think that's why things got kind of weird. I thought about putting like a console table behind that couch. I tested different ones, overlapping them, but they clipped weird. You know, I feel like we've all been there. If you're building in The Sims, like you just try different things and you're like, this is not working. Like I need to change what I'm doing. But I ended up using this end table that kind of just looks like a big block of wood. But I think it works well again in this home, and using my classic basket of pillows and blankets. But I didn't use it in the white color, which I feel like I use a lot since it had that lovely like pink tone in it. And then using this slightly floral lamp over in the corner because I wanted to make sure there was enough space for the whole family to hang out, especially if they had other Sims over. There was just plenty of space for that. And so I think we opt for things to just be a little bit off in terms of centering, but you know what? It's realistic. Houses aren't perfect. And I do like the way it looked. And I did add some clutter to that fireplace. And then I did end up shifting it over a little bit. I kind of said, you know what? Maybe it's just not going to be in the center of the wall and that'll be okay. But it is centered up then with the rug, which made me, I think, feel a little bit better. But I used that log item that we have. Oh, I love it so much. I think it makes it more realistic to have some wood sitting there by the fireplace. And then just adding some of those ceramic plates. I ended up putting another one over in the dining space as well. I thought maybe like they collect them and like that they just display them here. And then of course I feel like I had to put a chicken in here, like it needed to happen. And then just adding some candles there on the mantle. And then I had to check to make sure that the columns worked properly because I have built something before and I didn't like make them taller and then it just kind of looked weird. And so this side is where I was talking about earlier, kind of this like kids space where they can come hang out and do homework. And I imagine there being like a built-in with a big bench, like maybe that's where they can put their shoes on, they have all their bags and everything. And this is me basically just trying different objects to see how they all combine, to see if I can get them to like work properly, if that makes sense. But those actually came from Cats and Dogs. And then I brought in the couch from, I cannot remember for the life of me what pack that is from, but what I discovered was it has that lovely swatch that matches that brown, and I feel like that brings in some warmth. And it also has that like pink and purple tones that I started adding in the living room. So to me, things started adding up a little bit. And then just adding backpacks around, since there are 3 kids. Like I said, I feel like maybe this is where they store their school supplies, and this is where maybe they do their homework. And so we have some activity tables, since there are 2 kids and a teenager, is what I imagine in this house anyways. But of course you can change it. But I felt like having this space was really important. I put a toolbox down, oh my gosh, not a toolbox, a toy chest. Oh my gosh, I guess that's the kids' version of a toolbox. A toy chest down here so they can hang out, a scouting board. I thought maybe putting some of their projects out here. You can even, I think it'd be interesting too, like if you think about them maybe being like homeschooled as well. But I think that's interesting now with the high school pack that's coming out. Like I wonder if we're gonna get some like new like desks and things like that. I'd be really excited to see that and hopefully like build some cool things with that. But I wanted to make sure there was 2 different desk spaces so they can come and do their homework or get help from their parents or even maybe their older sibling, and then a space for them to do crafts and things like that. And then I really wanted to add in like a teddy bear. So there's lots of like things for the kids to do. And then I ended up adding like a little decal on the wall, and the giraffe did not make it down here, but don't worry, it is upstairs in the kids' room. I couldn't leave it out because I just find that object so cute. And then like that little height chart over there. And I didn't add any like pet stuff in here, although I feel like it'd be pretty fitting to have maybe a dog or something out on the farm, or possibly some cats. And then I ended up putting in this very large dining space, to be honest, but I kind of love it. And there's just a ton of room. There's also a table outside on the porch, so there's plenty of space. And it is also under like an awning, so they can go and sit out there and eat too, even if the weather's not great. There's plenty of space for your Sims to sit and just kind of do whatever. And I also ended up taking some screenshots with a family in this house, which I've been doing that a lot lately, and I love the way they turned out, especially the ones that are in the kitchen. I tried to get like the mom, like so one of the parents and the 2 kids to like cook together, but the kids just kind of stood there, so I'm not sure. I have not really done that in gameplay very much, but I figured they would have actually done stuff. I think they're supposed to like mix and do things. I'm not sure if like I did something wrong, but that's okay. They're in the kitchen with the mom and just hanging out with her. And I got some just awesome screenshots around the farm, so be sure to stick around for those because I love the way those turned out. And then just trying to figure out like what I wanted in this space, I decided to go with that like plaid wallpaper and then something in a more neutral, so that I can put accents in the rest of the space here. And so I'm bringing in some of that like mauve, pink, purple tones that we saw in the rest of the house. And I already changed up the wallpaper. I did that a little bit earlier in that bathroom and in the office, so everything's a little more cohesive, and I think it just makes a little more sense. But I think since pink is a tint of red, it works out just fine. So including another one of those plates in here, like I said, I thought maybe they collected them, that kind of thing. I think it'd also be cute if you swapped the swatches for like the ones like that look like kids made them. I think that would be really cute as well. And then I ended up bumping up those windows just a little bit. Originally I had them lower because I think it looked a little bit better on the outside, but functionally I just think it looked better this way, especially in the kitchen, because I wanted to be able to put cabinets underneath the window, and that really wasn't going to work well with it being lower, and I didn't want one window to be uneven from the other ones, so I just swapped that up a little bit. And then I ended up bringing in some darker wood tones in here as well, just to make it really warm in here. And I took a little bit of time trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to do in terms of having like a breakfast bar like in the kitchen. But I do like the way it turned out. I ended up using like that tall cabinet that comes with this set, which I think worked out really well, just like having a bunch of storage. And I think that would be what a family of this size would have, especially if you're on a farm. Maybe they make all of their food. If you decide to use that lot trade, I know there is one where you have to like make or buy all of your own food, which I feel like would be a little bit difficult. And so I just feel like, you know, there would be lots of storage in here. And I did make this build, I think, medium wall height, which of course causes some problems when it comes to the cabinetry. I feel like bumping it up, it's like so tall, how would anybody reach it? But having it lower didn't make a lot of sense. So I tried layering them, but that didn't look right either. But I think it looks good anyways. And then I, instead of using, like I said, that red tile that I had earlier, just using like the white and like with the gray accents in there, I think that also complements the wallpaper here. And then again, trying to figure out what I wanted to do in terms of some window coverings here in the kitchen. It just feels weird not having one. So I was sure to add those in there. And then I do end up just adding a few things on the counter and a few things on the wall. But like I said, it's a fairly clean house, especially, or I guess not clean, but uncluttered, considering that there's so many Sims here, especially having 3 kids. But I did include actually a dishwasher in this one. I feel like I don't usually do that, but I thought that might be a nice touch. I don't know why I don't think about that, because I feel like in real life I couldn't like live without my dishwasher. But, you know, I don't know why in The Sims I just don't really think about it. And then I tried to like do something, because you can kind of see the curtain inside of that cabinet, but that's just the way it's gonna stay. I tried to move it around, but it didn't work super well. And then adding that super cute shelf on the wall, I think that was adorable. It has a little cutting board and like the spoons and spatula. I thought that was a really nice touch. And I even threw in a popcorn machine. So I apologize if your Sims do nothing but make popcorn in this house, because I feel like they gravitate towards the popcorn machine and the ice cream machine. They just want to eat that all of the time. But it'll be all right. You can always take it out if you want to, or add in the ice cream machine too. I mean, you know, the more the merrier. And then I actually included like a microwave and a coffee pot, which again, I feel like those aren't necessarily things that I would include, although I feel like I couldn't live without my microwave either. So I just think it's funny how I don't always do things like I would in real life, but there are some things that I do. And then for the owner suite up here, I did struggle with this a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. You're gonna see me go through a billion beds trying to figure it out, and in between there I even paused it and just tried to figure it out without filming it, because it started seeming a little excessive how many beds I was having to go through to figure this out. And I think it was because I wanted to pull in that like pink tone, but I didn't want the room to be like bright super pink, if that makes sense. So trying to figure out a wallpaper that matches a bed that seems like adult. I don't know why, but some of the brighter pinks and things like that make me think of like children's rooms instead of like an adult bedroom. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but it just, something was bugging me. I feel like that happened to me the whole time I was actually decorating this home, and I don't know why, I just felt indecisive. But we do get there, I promise. I do actually choose a bed, and I think it does work out really well. And especially when I figure out how to deal with this space. It's actually a pretty large bedroom, but I do end up putting in like those built-in closets on the side wall, which I feel like I don't do very often, but I think made sense in this room because of the amount of space we had, and to make it look like we just have a lot of storage. And I thought about too like the floor wallpaper, but then it was just like way too much and I wasn't like really into it. But I do end up putting like a vanity in here and a little seating area on the side as well. They have an ensuite, and then there is another full bath on the top floor for the kids. So there are a total of 3 bathrooms, and both bathrooms do have a tub. So in case you want toddlers instead, or you do want to add like a dog to this house, like there is space to like give them a bath and take care of them. And then again, pulling in a lot of, I feel like the more rustic like wooden pieces. Like I wanted to make sure that there was like this nice headboard on the bed. It just felt right. And then having these like wooden end tables, and then trying to figure out the curtains too that matched. I really like these because of the stripes. I think it mimicked what was on the wall really well. And then pulling in this rug up here, and it reminds me of the one that's downstairs in the dining room, but it is a little bit different. And then just trying to figure out exactly how I want to fit everything in, because like I said, I feel like the vanity was really nice. I don't include them very often. I feel like the bedrooms just usually aren't big enough, and there's not enough space that your sim can just like walk around. And then I do end up using those lights throughout the whole entire house. I'm sure seen me use them everywhere already. And then just putting out a few pieces on this vanity. And I love that piece with the candle in it because it just makes everything look really warm and cozy, if that makes sense. And then this is when I decided that, you know what, I'm going to put in closets on this wall because I think this would be like what they would have here. So I feel like it's a really grand house. It's a really like comfy, cozy house actually to live in. And then I originally had the chair over in that corner because since there's 2 closets, they don't need to get to both of them. But also I know that the closet, you only need to get to one side, and I always forget which side they actually need to get to. So I may have been blocking that off if I had left it there, but don't worry, we move it to the other corner just to have like a little space for the Sims to come up here and hang out, maybe get away and take a break from, farm life and kids and things like that. And then I try not to clutter up the nightstands too much, trying to keep it simple. And then just, having that bench at the end too, I thought was nice. And then adding a footstool there for that chair and just having that nice little oasis up here. And then I did want to put something on the wall, but I was having a hard time figuring out exactly what. But don't worry, I figured it out. And then I believe next we end up moving into the bathroom. And again, I tried to mimic a lot of the colors that are in the rest of the home. But I did pull in that tile from downstairs, and I also pulled the wallpaper I used downstairs into the owner suite bathroom just because I felt like that would make sense. They've decorated the bottom floor, then they would choose the same thing for their bathroom. And I was really attached to the idea of having like a double sink. I don't know why that feels very luxurious to have 2 sinks in your bathroom. So I really wanted to be sure to include that. And then again, just kind of keeping the bathroom simple as we're going along here. And then for this landing space, this definitely took me a minute to get through, but just kind of putting a few things here because there is so much there for the kids everywhere else and in their bedrooms, which you'll see here soon. I didn't want to put like too much clutter around the house, but I thought it would be nice to put a bunch of ribbons on the wall, like maybe that's stuff that they've won at the fair with their different produce or their cow or chickens or whatever that they went and won stuff. So I thought that was an appropriate place to put it too, outside of all of their bedrooms. And then I don't know why, I actually really love the doors too for this house. I just felt like it looked really nice. And then just adding a little bit of decor here to the wall, just so, it didn't look super empty, but nothing like too crazy. And then for the kids' bathroom, I did go back and forth a little bit about this, exactly how I wanted to set it up, like which curtain I wanted. And I think part of my dilemma was, like, since we had 2 kids and a teenager, I didn't want to make it too childlike, if that makes sense, because I feel like the teenager may not like it. So I tried to keep it like a little whimsical, like it clearly is still a child's bathroom, but it's not like screaming like whales and everything. But I think I do actually end up using the whale rug because I couldn't just not use the whales. But I didn't do the curtain and the rug, so I traded that in. And then I did end up including the toy bucket that came with, I think it was Parenthood. I think it came with that pack over there by the sink. Like maybe that's where they kept all of like the toys that maybe the kids use in the bath, that kind of stuff. And of course, including a rubber ducky there on the sink, like that's maybe what they use during bath time. And of course, I did have to size down that toy bucket because it's so large. And then this is actually the teens room, and I knew I wanted something really bright. I felt like maybe this teen was like a little bit edgy, like she plays the guitar. And when I was going through all the beds for the owner suite, I saw this one and I was like, I have to use one of these swatches because it feels like that's what this sim would have. And I actually love, love, love the way this turned out. So pulling a lot of the purples out, I went really with like that lavender, and I think it came out really lovely. And then I also decided, you'll see later on, I'm adding a guitar because I feel like maybe she likes to play guitar. And I ended up putting that like cat radio on her nightstand that came from that new pack, the little campers pack. I totally don't remember what kit. It's a kit. I don't remember what that kit is called, but it came from that kit. And then just adding a nice dresser over here as well. And I wanted it to be something that was kind of interesting. And I loved the way the wallpaper looks with the bed, but I didn't want to put it everywhere because it was so much. So I just did the ends of the room, like some accent walls, and then just pulling in the purple on the longer sides. But I did combine this mirror and this dresser to make kind of like a vanity. It won't function like one, but I felt like that may be something that they would have. And then just, of course, including a hairdryer, different perfumes, like all this stuff, like maybe they're really into makeup, that kind of thing. And of course, including those adorable plants in here, because I felt like that was just a must. Like we had to have that in here, if that makes sense. And then just including some paintings on the wall that I felt like would work really well in here. So we're going to continue just decorating a little bit, and then we'll end up moving on to the kids' bedroom here in a second. And I just felt like a stuffed animal just was really appropriate here on the end of the bed, like just so cute, because she's still a kid, even if she's a teenager. Maybe it's a stuffed animal that's like left over from when she was younger. And for this room, so this is the twin boys I imagined, and I did end up pulling in this blue and yellow. I was inspired by the polka dot wallpaper because I really wanted to use it. And so I do give them like the same bed. I was trying to give them ones that were similar but different, but I couldn't find one that I liked. So they both have the same bedding, but I do end up putting like separate stuffed animals on each one so that they look like they have, their own little personality. They're both going to get a toy box at the end of their bed, and so maybe they have their own separate toys. And then I end up giving them a little bit of a play space there in the floor on a rug, because I felt like that would be pretty appropriate for them, just like maybe this is where they come and hang out, along with that space downstairs. And then I put a few toys on the rug so that they have something to do. You can add more, you can take them away, you can put them away in their toy box. But I also have some awesome screenshots of them playing in their bedroom as well. So be sure to stick around for those. And as we're kind of wrapping this up, if you have any ideas, put them down in the comments below, because I would love to read through them and see what you would want for your own gameplay. And then if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more like it. Again, there's a playlist in the description down below if you want to see more of my speed builds and gameplay for The Sims. So I hope you have a really sweet day. Bye, everybody.